Um, do you guys need me to use the mic? Or you can hear me back there.
We can hear you.
Okay.
It might be a little easier. Well, it's up to you.
If you need me to use the mic, I will. I usually have a pretty loud voice, so. So growing up, I was born with cerebral palsy. At the age of 3, I got a traumatic brain injury. So sports were, not a good avenue for me. So theater and the arts became very appealing to me. It was something that I could do, and I was actually very good at it. Thank you, sir. And all throughout school, I had a lot of success with it. I was cast in the high school shows, and I was free. But then I went to a small college in Pennsylvania called Allentown College of St. Francis de Sales. And there, they told me things like, well, you need to hide your disability in order to become marketable as a doctor. To get cast, I had to improve my speech. I had to become, quote unquote, normal, less disabled. And now let me stop. Part of that was true. I needed to improve. But the notion of trying to divorce myself of my disability is nonsense. Just as the notion of you trying to change your natural hair color is nonsense. You can dye it, you can try to change it, you can mask it, but your natural hair color is your natural hair color. And you can't change that. But I was young and, naive, so I tried. And I was miserable. I wasn't getting cast in anything. I was hating theater. I was miserable. Then I went to the National Theater Workshop for the Handicapped. And by the way, I promise this whole lecture is not about me, but I feel that my background is important for you guys to understand to get to where I am now, so you will understand where my breadth of knowledge, if you can call it that, where my breadth of research and experience, where that comes from, and how I happened upon the information that I know today. It is all from this. So at the National Theater Workshop for the Handicapped, I met actors from all over the world, London, all over the U.S., who had multiple disabilities, wheelchairs, limbs missing, dwarfism. I don't know if that's the politically correct term. I'm not the most politically correct person. I will say handicapped. I don't know if that's right anymore either. But sometimes I don't have the time to keep up with who I am anymore. How you refer to somebody. But I'm much more interested in how you speak to me than what you call me. If you call me retarded, if you say it in a loving way, then I know the word doesn't mean any malice. That's just me. But, so, that's a little bit about me. So, I had my eyes open. So after my junior year, I decided that I was going to leave DeSales University, and I transferred to CW Post. And my first audition at CW Post, they told me, "Wow, you're disabled. That's great." And I looked at her, and my first thought was, "This lady is crazy." And she goes, "That's gonna get you parts. We're gonna teach you how to use that to your advantage." And there was a paradigm shift. My whole thinking shifted in that instant. And she goes, "You can't hide this. You can't try to circumvent what you have. You need to use it and embrace it." And that's what I learned. Yes, being intelligible on stage is important, but you're never going to have perfect speech. So embrace it and learn how to make that work for your characters. So my first role there, they gave me the gander in Charlotte's Web. Guess what? The gander speaks in threes. Yep, yep, yep. Thank you. Jokes are, good. So that was hard for me because, it was a lot of tongue twisters for me. But they made me learn how to not worry about being perfect. I couldn't be Sybilic perfect. I couldn't do it. And they knew that. And they wanted to see my version of the gander with cerebral palsy. I remember my director said, "What are you so scared of at one rehearsal?" And I said, "Of not being good." He said, "Let the gander have cerebral palsy." Really? So the gander has cerebral palsy. And it was so, and it became fun again. And I learned how great the arts were again. And I fell in love with what I love to do. And then I said, something has to be done to let other disabled artists know that we don't have to fit into their world in order to do this. We can exist. Because face it, acting, and I can only really speak about the theater world, unfortunately, because that's where my knowledge and experience is primarily in. But acting and theater is primarily based on pretend, right? When we watch, throw out a show that you guys like.
Big Bang.
When you watch Big Bang Theory, on some level, you are aware that those actors are not really those people. That that they are, in fact, people playing those characters. And so if they, I shouldn't have stopped there.
It's okay.
So if they are in fact fictitious characters, then why do they have to be quote unquote normal characters? Why do we have to have types? Why can't Blanche Dubois be blind? But yet, we have, out in the real world, we have so many directors, casting directors, producers that won't hire or won't cast disabled actors. because they don't see that these characters can in turn have a disability and still work every bit as well as if they didn't have one. You know, they say, oh well, it's not a disabled role. Well, who says it's an able role? You know, you're assuming that because it's not stated that it can't be. But why not? You know, and you know, it's bad enough that the few roles that are slated for disabled actors, we give them to able-bodied people anyway. I love the guy who plays Artie on Glee. I'm a Gleek. I admit. I loved it. But, come on! We have one great wheelchair role, and you give it to a guy who can walk. BS. Give it to an actor in a wheelchair. Why? Because we need it. There are not that many roles. The same reason that August Wilson states that only African American actors can be in his plays. Why? Because it is necessary. Because they need to have roles for them. It's the same thing. And unfortunately, there is just not enough people in these fields that are willing to open their eyes and let people with different abilities and or perhaps different limitations create. And they always see it as, you know, I was shocked. I have gone back to NYU. Right now I'm enrolled in for my second master's. Hopefully I have applied for my EDD degree. Hopefully I will get accepted. But in a whole book about different forms of theater and working with all different kinds of groups, you know how many articles there were about working with people with disabilities? Out of 200, approximately 200 articles in the book, one out of a 500-page book. And it basically said what I already know, is that most directors and actors and people that are in these positions are not willing to let people with different abilities try. And you know, what gets me, right? What do you think the average salary for an actor is in a year?
Not a whole lot.
Broadway or TV or?
Just an average actor, what do you think most actors make in a year?
Not very much.
Zero. Zero. So if they can fail, why don't we get the same chance to fail? Why are we not given that same chance that they are? But we are typed out. I've gone to auditions and they'll see actor with disability and they won't even see me. They will just say, oh sorry, we're not looking for your type. Hello, I'm not a type. I'm here, I'm flesh, blood, and body, you know, and so I started my own company because I got sick of it. So in 2011, Identity Theater Company was started to give actors with disabilities a place to go work. It's not just for disabled actors. We have able-bodied actors because I want that mix. Because I don't think there's any kind of strength in just being exclusive. That's not the way to be, I don't think. But like coming into lectures, talks like these, and getting universities to hopefully let me teach a course in, I'm currently talking to NYU about me teaching a course in diversified casting where I'll actually require students, directing students to cast disabled actors in non-disabled roles. Doing things like that are the only way that I can see to start making the pendulum swing the other way. You know, and it's just unfortunate. It's just unfortunate. And you know, it's a sad, sad day. In other mediums, I feel like it's easier for disabled artists. You know, as painters, we kind of more readily accept the work of a disabled artist. Yeah. Because, you know, it's painting, it's something we see up on the wall, and we kind of, you know, we can accept that. Or a book, you know, we can accept that. But there's something about, we don't think a person in a wheelchair can play a role of a certain demeanor. Like, I did a project with a group called Visible Theater, called the True Story Project, and the topic was sex. And you don't know how many people did not think that people in wheelchairs want to have sex. They are not dead from the waist down. I mean, unfortunately, some of them are, but not all of them. You know, and not a lot of them. You know, and you know, but some of the people divorce them of any sexuality. You know, because that doesn't fit into our notion of disability. You know, normal things don't fit into our notion of disability. You know, I worked up in Standing Tall for nonverbal kids that have dual diagnosis. They're nonverbal and physically handicapped. The work they do up there is extraordinary because they find a movement that these kids can do, and they, with accuracy, and they build a language around it so the kids can say yes or no. And they use that as the basis to unlocking the kids' language so the kids can talk. And the girl, when they said, she's a 16-year-old girl, and she just said, would you leave me alone? You're pissing me off. You know, 16-year-old girl. And like, people forget, she's a teenager. Yes, she's disabled, but there's a teenager in there who is a teenager, you know? And that's just what I have decided that I am dedicating my life's work to. Currently, if everything goes well, I will be doing a production of Richard III. I hope very soon, within the next 2 years, where everyone is disabled except for Richard III, thereby making not having a disability a disability. And I hope to raise the question of what is disability, and this is kind of what I want, where I want to have a and what I will be doing is I will be interviewing disabled people about their experiences. I haven't solidified my questions, but it will be about the disabled experience. And then in the Richard III text, I will be inserting verbatim interview uh, data. So it'll be a hybrid production of Richard III with verbatim interview text from disabled people. And it will raise the question, I hope, of what is disability. Is disability simply what we have relegated it to? You know, emotional, mental, physical, or is brutality a disability? Is Richard's brutality? Is then Hitler disabled? Is Castro? You know, how do we define disability? And that's what I'm hoping to raise that question and to get that discussion going. And by then, hopefully, people will start to deconstruct some of the myths about what we do and who we are. And when we can blur those lines a little bit, I think we'll be able to start seeing more disabled actors working in non-disabled, traditionally non-disabled roles. So, what is your notion of disability?
My question is, like, if we don't define disability because we're not defining it due to roles, then what would a person who's giving themselves a disabled actor say that they are? How would you portray yourself as a disabled actor?
Well,
Because you're just a person.
yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any harm in saying that you're an actor with a disability. I just don't think it should be used against you.
But if someone's looking for a disabled actor, like what?
I mean, if they say looking for an actor with a disability, and you're a disabled actor, then yeah, say you're a disabled actor.
But like, what does that mean to be a disabled actor?
How would you define it?
How would I define it?
Yeah.
Well, if they're looking for a disabled actor, I would hope they would give me a little more description of,
Right.
are they looking for a schizophrenic?
Okay.
Are they looking for a person with a depression? Are they looking for someone with a physical disability? I would hope that they would, like I got this like 3 weeks ago, right? From this casting director. Oh, I found your company where I'm casting for this movie. We're looking for a disabled actor.
Okay.
Period. And I didn't say this to her, but I'm thinking, I'm like, that's like saying I'm looking for a needle in a haystack. You know, because like, that's like saying I'm looking for the color blue. Well, what shade of blue are you looking? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I responded, I said, could you please give me some more information? You know, I am an actor with a disability myself, and I know others that may be of appropriate use to you, or something like that. You know, and I was thinking of Anton, and I was thinking of a few others that I know of, but I was thinking, I'm like, what? You know, like, this is a perfect example of someone who just doesn't get it. Like, what does she think? You know, we're like those like prizes in the Cracker Jack box, you know, we're all like basically the same thing, you know, but yeah, I mean, I had to ask her for more information about
Okay.
what she really meant. And I never really got an answer.
No. So, do you feel like there are people who are like, oh, I need like Gimp a grape, or like I need like this specific role of disability?
Some of them are,
Some. Oh, okay.
you know, and I mean, I have no problem with that. I mean, some roles are written. The other sister
Right.
with, what was her name? Lewis.
I don't know.
Well, the one that
Yeah.
she invites people to come to their wedding
Yeah.
on their napkin. It was such a touching movie. They were, you know, they wanted Down syndrome. You know, you know, fine. You know, you wanna Corky from
Life goes on.
Life Goes On. You know, they wanted to make a show about Down syndrome. You know, great. You know, you want to do something on that disability. Great, you know, be specific. But, you know, like now they're starting to really do stuff with mental illness, and I think that's incredible that finally mental illness is being shown accurately. Well, more accurately, not always, but it's starting to be seen less taboo-ish than it has been as we become more familiar. But, you know, but like when this casting director said it, I was like, I just couldn't, I'm looking for a disabled actor, period. It's like, do you want an amputee? Do you want, you know, that's like telling me I'm looking for a woman. Okay, you know, that's half the population, okay. You know, but, I mean, this is, so through discussions like this, I'm hoping to, you know, shed some light on this, you know, issue, problem, situation, or whatever you want to classify it as. And then hopefully you guys will tell somebody or know somebody or, you know, and start the ripple effect, you know, because it's got to change somehow, you know. So I don't have any fancy handouts. I don't have any fancy figures for you. I just have me, my story, my experience, my 35 years on this earth, my education, what I've learned, and what I've done.
I have a question. You're very articulate, and
Thank
I wouldn't know that you have cerebral palsy now.
Yes.
I would not know.
I'm lucky in that I have a very, very mild form of it, but I'm dysarthric, which means that it primarily affects my speech. But if you ask me to stand on top of this chair, my balance is not good. My coordination is not good. So, like most disabilities, my intelligence part of my brain has compensated for what my physical part of my brain can't do. I have to tell you, I was kind of intimidated about coming into dementia because my IQ is nowhere near the IQs of this table. I said to Anton, I said, do you think I'm smart enough? but you know, I was so honored that you guys asked me to speak. I really was. But, you know, like most disabilities, you know, when there's a deficit in one area, another area compensates. And, and I was lucky enough that I was very articulate, well spoken, I did well in school. But this was what's funny, is on my IQ tests, my scores were always average because I did very well on certain parts. But like, I'm putting the puzzles together, not so good. I still can't do that, the spatial stuff. Oh, those are horrible. If you give me pieces and say put this together, I'll eventually get it, but
That's like fun stuff.
oh no.
It's relative.
For you guys, yeah, but for me, like the things they do on Survivor and stuff, like they said, Nick, your verbal reasoning was high, something else is high, but my spatial relationships were that of a second grader, and something else was really low, so my IQ was always average. And I'm like, well, oh well, you know, I was really good in one area, but that was the cerebral palsy. That was, I'm very compensating, but my spatial relationships were not well. But they used to, I remember there was always this crab. I think that's why I hate crabs to this day.
Can I ask you a question? Do you have problems with your eyesight as well? Because
Yeah,
you mentioned special relationship.
I have, you know, I had LASIK, and that helped. Can I have another diet soda? Get this here, please.
I'll take one as well. No one's.
But I had the LASIK surgery, and that helped.
Okay.
But like I did real well. Like when they would read you like 5 words, and then you would repeat it back, and then a couple minutes later they would ask you. I did real well on that stuff. It was real interesting, my disability.
I think as far as really learning your lines for theater and whatnot, again, you had very good memory skills.
Yeah,
at least. Okay.
that's not an issue, which is really cool. You know, but sometimes, sometimes seeing in my mind, sometimes I see in my mind what I want to happen, but I have trouble actually doing it. So I'll have to keep shifting people over and be like, no, that's not really what I want here, But like anything else, and that's what I want people and directors to realize, is that yes, they may have to learn different ways of working and talking to an actor with a disability. But that doesn't mean their standards have to be lower. It doesn't mean that they will have to sacrifice their quality. It means it will be different. But different does not mean bad. And if I can just get them to realize different does not mean bad or less. And, and sometimes no risk, no reward, And NBC, I just have to say this. As much as I applaud their multicultural diversity, they have this diversity unit where they try to promote different culture actors and disabled actors fall into that. A lot of the actors that they promote are minority actors, but the ones that they seem to really work are not really that different. you know, Hawaiian or, you know, Pacific Islander. And yes, they need representation too. But I really have yet to see them go out on a limb and put, you know, put an actor in a wheelchair up there, you know. My friend Stephen was a deaf actor who they accepted, and I just found it funny that they really didn't, you know, a lot of actors that get picked for the project go on to really get big roles. And, you know, while I can't necessarily, you know, say, I just find it funny that I don't feel like they did as much for him as they've done for other people. And I think a lot of it is like anything else. It's fear of the unknown. Directors wonder, am I going to have enough time? You know, am I going to be able to work with them? Are they going to be able to produce? You know, the same reasons I got at my college for not being cast.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I have a friend who is a director of community theater productions. I don't think they'd be paid, but do you want something on your resume? Are you interested in me giving her your name?
Well, yes. I mean, I may not personally, but, you know, I could certainly forward it. You know, there is an alliance for inclusion in the arts, which they do a lot, but they do a lot for equity actors, which is nice. But no, I'm trying to get more for just more awareness and more, you know, it, like I said, it's still a lot of, unless it's a disabled role, don't show up. And I'm vehemently against that practice. Hence why Richard III's not going to be disabled. You know, and then my plans are, like, this spring my company will be doing a production of Pinocchio. And it's an adaptation which I wrote, and we set it in New York City. And our fairy godmother is disabled. She only has one wing. And Pinocchio's nose doesn't grow. Every time he tells a lie, he gets an older cell phone. And this last lie, he gets a rotary phone and doesn't know how to use it. You know, and we'll have a mix of disabled and enabled actors in that, because I like kids to see disabled actors in active roles. I don't like this theory that disabled people always have to be on the receiving ends of things. That's why I'm so thankful you asked me to be here to speak, because a lot of times people don't think disabled people, we have anything to say or that we're capable of giving. All we have to do is receive services and take, and you have to do for us. And a lot of time that's crap. Am I allowed to say crap?
Yes.
You know, and especially for kids, I want them to see that we can give, you know, we can do. You know, a person in a wheelchair can give you something. You know, they can sing, they can dance. And on how many times have we had people in wheelchairs in musical numbers?
Well, Identity has had that a few times. I saw the video you did of Peter Pan and the Big Apple, and the actress playing Tinkerbell was a wheelchair user.
Uh-huh.
Are you familiar with Wheels of Ontario?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
I mean, I have to say, so you think you can dance? I was very, very amazed that they debuted a dancing wheelchair group 1 week on their show. And I was very, just ecstatic.
This is the funniest coincidence because I study ballet, and in one of the schools I go to, in the ballet class was a young woman in a wheelchair. So I said to them at the desk, I said, do you give her a break in the fee for the class? They said, oh no, we feel she's getting the same amount of, she's getting a benefit by being in class, she's learning something. And they charge her the same amount for the class as able people. I thought that was an interesting way of...
That's an interesting distinction, because I think sometimes when people talk about disabilities and stuff like that, they feel that there should be special treatment. And I think one of the points that this young man is making is that don't treat us any differently. Show us the same respect
Well,
that you show everyone else.
I have to say, as far as the fee goes, I may think because she can't do everything. So that may be a little different. I mean, I think, but that's just me. But I'm glad they let her in that class. I think that's between her and the management and only them. But you know, and plus sometimes disabled people are on fixed incomes, so that could be different too. Different situations, but I'm very happy to see they let her in a class. And if she's able to, and if she's really getting the same training, then yes, she should pay the same amount. But there may be mitigating factors there as well. But, you know, like for me, I'm on a fixed income, so when I get a break, it helps. Not because I play that card, but I'm on a fixed income, and you know, I need the break if I can get it. I do work part-time, but I can only work part-time. So, do you guys have any questions for me? Did I cover enough ground? Is there anything?
Yeah, very good talk.
Was it worth the wait?
Yes, very much so.
What would you say to the casting directors who, instead of just saying, well, we're not looking for this, and the explanation that we're looking for in this particular role is like a pilot is a character that we feel that people would relate to. The reason that they have a type is they want to have, you know, somebody who, you know, fits X in their mind. Obviously, there are certain people who relate to a differently abled character, but how would you respond if they said that?
Well, what would I think or what would I say?
I'd be curious about both.
I would think, why are you so shallow? I would say to them, but if the actor's good, they're going to relate to that actor no matter what. And I would say to them that look at Artie Ugly, that he is one of the most loved characters on that show. And he's in the wheelchair. I said, and why limit yourself? Why not at least see what's out there? You know, and like us, just leave yourself open. Just open that door and see what walks in. And let your heart speak to you. You know, let your heart speak, and you never know. You take a chance. You may see the whole show in a whole different way. And And you know, and I would say to them, listen, some people who have thought outside the box have gone on to win things like Golden Globes, Oscars, Tonys, all because they thought out of the box. They didn't play it safe. And this is a way to not play it safe. Now, do you want to be safe and ordinary, or do you want to change to be extraordinary? Up to you. I know what I choose. And then I probably show the Oh, and I'd say, well, you cast me in. I can pass this disabled or non-disabled, so you can choose. And then, of course, when they got me one, I would reveal to the world that, hey, I'm both.
When is Richard leaving on? How's that happen?
Well, it's part of my EDD proposal, because for the EDD you need, the difference between that and a PhD is I don't have to write an 80,000 word dissertation, but I have to do a culminating project, a paper on that project, and Richard would be my culminating project. So, and I did apply for the EDD, so I'm thinking 2016, 2017, and it will be for my doctorate.
What university are you going to?
NYU.
Okay.
And by the way, I never thought I would go to NYU. Never, ever thought I would pay that tuition.
What
But the program at Steinhardt is just,
So,
and Steinhardt is really like down to earth. They really are
They're
at
really,
Steinhardt.
oh,
Yeah,
it's strange.
and I really like it because it's not snooty at all.
Yeah,
Not like
Weird.
Tish.
it's super weird.
I can't stand Tish. I really can't. Oh no, that's on there. Erase that.
What do you do with Identity Theater?
I'm the founder and executive director.
What shows are you putting on?
Right now, we have our modern musical adaptation of Pinocchio coming up in May.
And if we want to see it, where do we go? How do we find it?
IdentityTheater.com. Anton, well, I'm hoping you'll audition. I don't know what you're up to.
Well,
Will you email us when it's closer?
Well, Anton will know.
yeah,
Will
so,
you remind him?
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
But like I said, I'm hoping that, I don't want to put him on the spot, but I'm
Right.
hoping that he might be in it.
We make it a
Wanna
good
be in it?
Pinocchio.
Yeah, that'd be good.
He's acted
Give me
with
it.
us.
And
He's
then we'll
acted
email
with,
everyone.
he's acted
Yes.
with us before, and it's, oh, Anton was a member of our company before he got busy with his account.
well, I've got a lot of things going on.
Yeah, but he was, so, you know, but yeah, so Anton is definitely a friend of the company, so I'm hoping that he'll be around and maybe even part of it.
Oh.
I think you've seen one of our shows, haven't you?
I did, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he was at True Colors of Weedle.
Yeah.
I was there, yes, I was. Actually, I'm, given what you were speaking about, since it's, currently in the news, or, currently in the theaters, I should say, I was wondering if you had any thoughts about Eddie Tremaine, an able-bodied actor who won a Golden Globe and was nominated for an Oscar, portrayed Stephen Hawking. Do you have any thoughts or comments about that? Did you see the film, by the way?
No, I
Theory
didn't.
of Everything?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't get to see it. I don't get to see much movies.
I would recommend it, by the way. I thought it was very well done.
Yeah,
They said it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's
it
Yes.
is,
well, it's very heartfelt too.
Yes.
but he did a wonderful job with it.
So is this where you guys meet every month?
It's going to be.
Yeah, this is
This
the
is our
first
first.
meeting. Also, another question. Well, two more actually. First, ever heard of theater breaking through barriers?
Yes.
What do you think of it?
They do great stuff. They are on the off-Broadway scene. I have done a reading with them, and I've seen some of their work. They do good stuff. I know the director and producer, Ike, and yeah, I like their stuff.
Okay. And second, as I mentioned before, an able use, well, I've noticed that they give actors awards for playing disabled characters, even though the actors are not disabled themselves. Critics assume it's some big acting challenge for them. While, as you've noted, ironically, those who are actually differently abled don't get cast that often. What do you think about that?
Well, like I said, I think it's a travesty that the few roles that we have designated for us don't go to people like us.
Like Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man?
Yeah, I think it's quite ridiculous that the few roles that we have for disabled actors don't go to disabled actors. And
What?
and
Oh, this-
and that's why August Wilson demands that only black actors play the parts in his place, because he feels that it's necessary that black actors get their due. And I can understand why now.
And I'm just curious, why do you begrudge Hawaiian and Asian performers?
Oh, I don't begrudge them. I don't begrudge them at all. I don't think that they are in need of as much,
They're not in need.
not as much as disabled actors need representation.
Okay.
How do you feel about affirmative action?
This is a trap, don't answer.
Yes, totally a trap.
It's a
Obvious
trap,
troll
don't
is
answer.
obvious.
Don't answer. No.
No, I am not, I don't begrudge Asian, and I think it's great that they get assistance. I just don't think that they need as much, not that they don't need it, but I don't think that they need as much.
I really
How?
have to disagree with you, I'm sorry. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
I don't think that they need as much representation and help as disabled actors need.
I have to respectfully disagree, because I think as far, if you look at the demographics of the United States, as far as really Hispanic, Asian, well, yeah, that's honestly,
Also,
yeah,
throw
really
that in
is.
there, throw
But
that in
as far,
there.
but as far as like looking at really how people are portrayed in entertainment, on television, and films, and theater and whatnot, typically you're gonna see white faces on stage, English-speaking faces, whereas, you know, like really a lot of this country right now is Spanish-speaking. That's the trend. That's the
Also-
uptick.
Internment camps. Remember when we interned a lot of Japanese people?
Yes.
It was a horrible thing, but we did it. We did it because we're American. We did it. We interned a lot of Japanese
It's part of
people.
that history. Yep.
Huge part of our history that nobody acknowledge it. We interned those Japanese people. So many years.
But who do you
Prison.
see more in the entertainment industry? Japanese Americans or disabled people? What do you see more of?
Typically, if you see an Asian face on TV or something like that, it's usually like a
Character role.
not even that. I mean, if you look on like the news shows, there'd be you'd have like Kai Time or something like that, and that's it.
Until the 90s.
Yeah.
But you have no,
Okay, I'm
but
sorry.
you have no disabled representation. You have none.
But-
Some,
But I think
Who?
with the disability. Newscaster, Channel 2, blonde, 1980s to 90s.
There's still more.
She had pterodactyl hands, I think. I don't
Bree
know.
Walker.
Yeah, Bree Walker.
okay.
There's one.
Truly challenged.
How many Asian people can you name? A lot. Lucy Liu. There you go, there's one.
None.
That's
You're-
it.
None.
You have.
But that's your opinion and you're entitled to it.
I didn't say they're not needed, but you see more of them than you do.
I'm saying that's your opinion and you're entitled to it.
I'll agree with Nick, right? It is Nick.
Mhm.
I'll agree with Nick. There's a lot more representation of virtually everyone but differently able, especially compared to the prevalence in our normal life compared to how often they're displayed on screen.
And especially nowadays, because, you know, you do get.
I think one of the things that the important point too is that again you have a lot of people who do have disabilities, but they're in the workforce. And I think that's one of the things that needs to be represented in theater, in movies and whatnot, is that you have people who do have either they don't have use of their legs or they might really be blind or something like that, but they're earning, they're providing for their families and whatnot. And I think that's actually the type of thing that we need to see presented in the media. Again, if we're going to see something like this as a representation of ourselves.
I saw a play that was partly produced by Theater Breaking Through Barriers. It was called Power Plays with some heavy-duty directors, John Guar and Henry David Wang. And I think the point of those plays were to have actors and actresses go about their business without highlighting the disability. Not say, walk in there and say, I have a disability, give me a part. I can do the job. That's it.
Yeah.
No mention of disability. I didn't have any idea which one of the actors or actresses had a disability. That's the point.
I think
Now,
if you're-
just so that I give background, way back in the 70s and 90s, I worked with this in terms of the law. Section 504 of the Rehab Act in terms of education, Americans with Disability Act. So I have an idea of what it is to be mainstream, to get everybody in there without a stigma. That's the whole point of this, not to have like stand out, be mainstream and say, I can do it. Don't cast me aside as not being able to do it just because I have this thing that you can see or not see. But it's not like going in there and saying like, aside from the fact that there's a part for somebody with a disability. But to say that-
I'm talking about theater. I'm not talking
I understand what
about.
you're saying, but I don't know, the philosophy is still the same.
No, it's not.
All right, we disagree. I'm not going to go further.
Well, to his point, I think if you return the conversation to the problem behind his original question, how do you define disabled? Is that there's much more definition behind what it is to be African American or what it is to be Asian than it is to be disabled, where that's understood as unable. And there's no understanding as to, well, what does that mean? Does that mean cerebral palsy? Does that mean, you know, I can do this and I can do that? The conversation ends at disabled. And I think to what you're saying, that's true whether it's entertainment or anything else that, you know, maybe there's some discrimination happening.
All right, well, I disagree with you. There's a vast knowledge on what disability means. But if you say
In the
that-
workforce.
Not necessarily in the workforce.
In the workforce.
Not necessarily.
Where?
Public,
Okay.
schools, playgrounds.
Yes, but not in theater. Not.
Wait a second, you're changing it, you said in the workforce, I said, no, it's in there, now you're changing it to this.
I'm talking about
One
theater.
argument at a time.
I'm talking about
Same thing that
theater.
I'm talking about.
No.
You're saying that I'm not gonna get into it.
There are legal, protections for people who want to work in an office or in a field where they're able to do but aren't able to because of the physical limitations. Like you must have a ramp, not just stairs. You must have an elevator. Those are required. But there's a difference between making sure a building or a work environment conforms to code and hiring people for a role in the arts. And I think that there's a distinction there that has to be made.
I can appreciate that. I understand. Again, I appreciate the fact that they're different, different requirements. Again, you're talking about theater as opposed to office environment.
And it's a question also of being hired. Like when you are hiring somebody, you can't discriminate based on several classes, not as high as gender or race or national origin. A slightly lower level is orientation. A slightly lower level below that is ability.
When you talk about something like the theater or performing arts, it's such a crowded field already. You have one part and you have 1,000 actors show up for this part. So again, it's a buyer's market as far as that's concerned. I mean, the fact that somebody is disabled, it's not even, it doesn't even enter into the criteria. It's like, look,
it may or may not.
Yeah. Well,
but how would you know that? Like I was about to say, there's no way. If there's 5 people applying for a secretarial job,
yes.
You could say, well, 5 people in wheelchairs have applied in the last year and none of them have gotten it. That's a pattern.
There you go.
But if you've got 1,000 people trying for a role, you can't show anything.
Yeah.
Theater is, one of my teachers said best, theater and modeling are the industries where it is perfectly legal to discriminate. And that's pretty much the only two where it is legal to discriminate. And, you go to casting directors and a lot of them see anything different than what they want. They don't need to go there because they have other options. And there's nothing compelling them to go there. So you're cast aside. I'm not saying other people don't need help. We all need help in this industry. We're all nuts for being in it because we're all competing for 1% jobs. There's a lot of fish for little food.
Again, from your perspective in the theater, I'm actually spent a little bit of time in the music industry years and years ago. I didn't have a wife and kids to support. But again, I'm very supportive of people who do provide live entertainment. That includes theater, that includes musicians who play at clubs. And we have a lot of these guys who really spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day with their craft, with their instrument. And they're playing to a room of like 20 people or something like that. And they'll go on a tour of the country. And they're selling their little CDs out the back of the car, stuff like that. It's a whole way to make a living. But they're doing what they love. But it's one of those things where, again, it's a crowded field. You have a lot of people trying to make a buck. Again, you only have so many people who are like Justin Timberlake or something like that. They see a Justin Timberlake or something like that, and they say, well, gee, that's what the music industry is about. The music industry is more about these guys who are like 40 or 50 or 60 years old, playing gigs every week so that they can pay the rent and whatnot.
Well, I tell that it's the same analogy to Broadway.
Yeah.
Broadway is not
that's right.
really
that's
the theater scene here. The theater scene is, in my opinion, is the little guys that, are doing the shows at the off-Broadway houses, struggling to make ends meet, suffering for their art, and doing this because we have to create.
Can we get checks?
Checks, please.
All right. Second round of applause.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming all the way up.
Appreciate it.
So was that so scary? You okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, Nick.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.